Sawadee tuk konka, Dajahao, hello everyone, and welcome back to my video. I am collabing with the amazing Kru Nan from You Too Can Learn Thai podcast. All links are down below. In today's video, we are going through the common mistakes that are made when learning a new language. You'll be getting my perspective as a learner and someone who has done many mistakes, and you'll also be getting the perspective of a teacher. So, I'm bringing you both sides of the argument. Unfortunately, 2021 strikes and connectivity issues. There will be no video from her side. It will be audio because we've had to do audio this time. So, Kru Nan, please say hello to the beautiful people.
สวัสดีค่ะทุกคน ครูแนนจาก You Too Can Learn Thai ค่ะ Hi, this is Nan from You Too Can Learn Thai podcast and website.
So, should we kick off?
Yes, คุณ Victoria. What is the first major one that you would like to talk about then?
So I think the first one is not learning the foundations. Like any good house, our foundations must be strong. One thing that I definitely think is very important for learning is the rules around the alphabet and the use of consonants in Thai. For example, one thing that always trips me up when I'm reading has to be the false consonants.
So it seems that when you started learning Thai, you started learning the alphabet at the same time, or when in your Thai language journey did you start?
So the first thing I started with was the alphabet, and I'll say going from learning Chinese, which has no alphabet, to learning a language that has an alphabet, I was like, my friend. And then I saw how many letters there were, and I was like, I take it back.
But it's good that you started since the beginning, because from what I noticed, quite a lot of people actually started learning Thai by speaking and listening first, and then alphabet later, which is recommend other people who would learn Thai to start right away with the alphabet?
I personally would, but I think it depends on what their goal is. So for me, I've always had the idea that I would love to live in Thailand one day, regardless of how long that is, even if it was for like a month. And I'm very aware that as much as English speakers like to believe that English is everywhere, it is not. So I know that if I'm to survive and get around on a day-to-day basis, I need to be able to read Thai. So I was really considerate of that, and I really wanted to be able to read anything in Thai. So I really wanted to start with the alphabet, and I have found that the knock-on of that is that my understanding and speaking has improved a lot. So I would highly recommend learning the alphabet first, but I do appreciate that some people just want to speak and nothing else.
Yeah, I agree as well. From my teaching experience, some of the students may find learning the alphabet since the beginning a little difficult, but in the long run, definitely learning alphabet can help you. Also, in terms of if you want to check out the dictionary, then definitely you need to know the alphabet, because I don't think there are many dictionaries right now that is targeted to learners who do not know the alphabet. In terms of the foundation, apart from the alphabet, would you think the tones are another one as well?
I think tones are fundamentally just the be all and end all. Even if you don't do alphabet, you have to do tones, because
yes, even though you only speak.
Yeah.
I know from people who come from Western language background like you, or people who speak other languages that do not have tones must be something that's difficult for them. So what's your tips for learning tones?
As boring and as generic as it sounds, I think practice is the be all and end all, because I will say that whilst I had done Chinese tones for so long, so I did have some basis when going into Thai. However, Thai tones still really trip me up a lot more than Chinese tones.
And if I could add though, I think another foundation that you should have when you start learning Thai is to have a basic understanding of the fundamental ways of how a language works. For example, in Thai, when you ask the question like, will you eat? จะกินไหม? And the other party answer is yes. Then I often hear learners say chai. So that's kind of like an equivalent of the English answer, right? Yes, no, chai, me chai. But actually, if you notice, in Thai is more appropriate to answer with the verb itself, like kin. I think it's good to have an idea that there are some fundamental ways that languages work differently.
100%.
So how about we move on to the second one then?
Yeah.
The second mistake that you would like to point out?
So I think the second one that is good to mention is spending too much time trying to learn every single word you hear rather than learning sort of practical words. Because, for example, one way I like to learn is by looking at songs. However, the way a song artist will write is not necessarily how it is spoken, or they're not going to necessarily use common words. So you could spend all your time learning these words that no one really uses when you could be spending it learning more commonly used words.
Yeah, I definitely agree. Another thing is I find some learners like to learn from word lists. For example, this is words for relatives. So then you have พ่อ แม่ พี่ น้อง and then it kind of start to expand to like some of the more difficult words. I think they are by themselves useful if you want to expand vocabulary on those areas, but at the same time, it's probably not a good idea to start memorizing all of them at the beginning. And then maybe later on, if I want to expand, then that will be something in the later stage of learning.
And I think this is where my laziness has really benefited me. For example, like words related to family. I don't actually know that many apart from like mum, dad, brother, sister, aunt, grandma, granddad, and that's it. I didn't learn cousins or anything like that because I just don't talk about that sort of stuff. And I haven't come across the need for it yet.
You like to learn by building sentences. So what are the mistakes that can happen related to building sentences?
I think what can happen, especially when you mentioned with the sort of the long list of words, is you spend all this time learning every single verb, noun, and adjective under the sun. But then you've not done a combination of building the sentence and also what you mentioned in the first part of not understanding the way the language works, for example, how to pose the questions. So you're stuck with all these words that you know, but then when it comes to actually speaking it, you have no way to actually string them together. For me, I learn from my mistakes, so it's only when I start building those sentences, trying to use words, like I'll learn a new word and then suddenly I'm trying it in as many ways or sentences as possible, and then my friends or my tutor will be like, we don't really say it like that. But it's still getting that practice of stringing it together, figuring out where the noun goes, where the adjectives go. Because especially comparing it to English, the sentence structure is different. So you need that practice of building those sentences, I think.
One of the things, if you are really at the very beginner level, you can also use these tips as well. Just try to swap words, right? Like when you learn ชอบ then you can say, ฉันชอบเขา ฉันชอบอ่านหนังสือ ฉันชอบกินเค้ก repetition can help reinforce the words in your mind.
Definitely.
The fourth mistake that you want to talk about.
I think a big one is when people give up or avoid something because it's hard. And this can be for whatever, different things for whatever reason. For me personally, it was more in Chinese than Thai, I would say, but it was trying to avoid anything that had like the umlaut sound, the u sound, because I found that so hard and I just didn't want to learn it, so I kind of avoided it. And then it was like, you can't avoid these things, you have to learn it. Do not give up, do not avoid.
It's great to keep a balance, right, between making sure that your sentences are good and getting your message across.
Definitely.
Right. Sometimes you just can't avoid like one of the sounds or one of the words, one of the grammar structures, because the most important point of learning a language is to communicate. What's the fifth one that you want to share?
I think a mistake is to not listen to native speakers, for example, even on like TV shows, music, and also to try and to avoid speaking with natives, because I feel like you can learn and study, you can read, you can write and do everything in your own house. However, until you're actually speaking with a native speaker, you're not going to be able to measure how good or bad you are. And I think if you can try and speak with natives from different parts of the country, you'll then get to hear different accents, and it will kind of help you in terms of your listening abilities.
I do agree. It's great to get out of your comfort zone and try experimenting with what you have learned and speak with the native speakers. And I like your comments about speaking with native speakers from different parts of the country to get used to the accents, because not everyone speak the standard accent. So you start learning Thai since the COVID started. So what's your tips on finding natives to speak with right now?
I think definitely the internet is your best friend. I'm choking.
Yeah.
I was like, as much as lockdown sucks and COVID sucks, this is like the best time it could have happened because we have the internet. Like, imagine if this was like 20 or 30 years ago, we would be stuck at home. So use the internet, use what you have at home. I think there are great resources, for example, Tandem, which is my personal favourite. There is Hello Talk, and even if you don't want to use those, just go on Facebook. I'm part of so many Thai language learning groups, Chinese language learning groups, and you can find native speakers who are looking for example, English natives to then become language partners with. Internet has an infinite amount of resources, and I think even if you were a bit shy and you didn't want to, I think a great place to start is YouTube, and at least you can practice listening to natives on there. Even if you can't speak with them, that's a great sort of first step if you don't want to reach out to anyone yet.
I do agree, especially in this era of the internet. People are learning how to use Zoom, use Skype, so people of all ages now can have access and know how to use those software.
100%.
So it's a really good era to start. What's another mistake that you want to share then?
I think one thing is forcing yourself to learn things you don't enjoy, and that can either be the way you learn or even the language itself. It comes down to the moment something feels like work, it's no longer fun. Learn in a way that is enjoyable for you, and also learn a language that you enjoy. Go where your passion is.
Yeah, and definitely. So I saw that you actually did quite a few reaction videos to Thai songs. Probably a good idea. So if other people also like listening to Thai songs or watch Thai TV shows, then if you have subtitles, you can match, right? You can learn the lyrics, practice reading the lyrics, and then listening to the songs and the TV contents at the same time. We have now arrived at the last tip that you want to share.
And I know that we have mentioned about grammar and how important it is, but it is also important to note that when you're starting out your journey, do not be too focused on grammar when you're very, very first starting. I think being able to learn the foundations of speaking, like the hello, how are you, my name is, learning that is a great place to start. And I feel like sometimes we fall into the trap of, I have to know all of the grammar in the world before I can actually speak. Speak first, learn grammar as you go, but don't let grammar kind of hold you back from speaking.
Yeah, I do agree. And sometimes when you try to speak, you will find it again and again that there are some kind of specific grammar points that you may want to learn. The need to use it will by itself help you learn and memorize the grammar. So
100%.
yes, I do agree. Focus on the function, focus on the use first, and let them lead you to memorization of the relevant grammar points.
Don't think that you need to have a logical reason for starting a language before starting, because, for example, people will learn a language specifically for their job. Whereas I started Chinese because I was like, I really want to learn Chinese. And then Thai, it was literally, I was bored in lockdown. I've always loved the way Thai sounds. And I was like, I've got time, I'm just gonna learn. Like, I didn't really have a logical reason other than I want to do it. So I think don't let the fact that you've not got this really thought out and like, it's gonna help me in my career or I'm gonna move there reason. Just start.
Yeah, I do agree. Like, after all, in life, love and passion motivates a lot of things in your life. So why not do the same for language learning, right?
Exactly. So that brings us to the end. Another huge thank you to Kru Nan from You Too Can Learn Thai. As I said at the beginning of the video, make sure you check her podcast out. Please do smash the like, the share and the subscribe. Thank you for watching. As always, have a blessed day. And until next time, Sawadee Tuk Kong Ka. Zaijian. Goodbye everyone.